have the pleasure and the honor to be sitting here with the CEO of Hashgraph, Eric Piscini, right? Mm-hmm. And so welcome, Eric. Tell us a little bit more about your journey into the space.
Oh, wow. So we have, what, an hour and a half to do that? Yeah.
Well, give us the short version.
No, thank you. Thank you first for having me. Thank you for hosting this event. And thank you for staying late to chat with us. I actually started my journey in 2013 when I was at Deloitte and decided to start a new group within Deloitte to address the very beginning of those challenges we were facing. We were not talking about blockchain even. We were not talking about tokenization. We were talking about cryptocurrencies and in the form of payments. And we were saying, okay, what's going to change for our business at Deloitte, right? Whether it's the consulting business, the audit business, the tax business. And today, you know a lot of the Deloitte people still because of that. We started very early in this journey. I left Deloitte to start a company in the blockchain space to do supply chain activities. Exited that company, went to back to the big corporations of IBM to build solutions in the healthcare industry. Did that for a few years, sold the division of IBM to a private equity firm, and joined the Hedera ecosystem in March of 2023. And today I'm the CEO of Hashgraph, and maybe I can explain a little bit.
Yes. So my next question to you is give us some background on a little bit more of the umbrella of Hedera, Hedera Foundation, Hashgraph. How do they fit together, and what do they each focus on?
Yeah, so when we started the journey of Hedera, it was in 2018. I was not there, but the journey started with the creation of a governing council. So the basis of Hedera was we cannot build a public permissionless blockchain and expect enterprise to come and build on that blockchain. No chance. And I can argue that there is no chance today still. And we can talk about that. And so the decision was the network is going to be run by large organizations, trusted organizations. Today we have 35 of them. And they are IBM, they are Dell, Google, LG, many, many others. And so the trust of the network starts with that governing council. The second piece was the technologies invented by Dr. Lyman Baird, who was very, very unique, called Hashgraph. And that technology, if you're a technologist, it is not a blockchain. We say blockchain because it's easier. But that technology is so unique that is extremely fast, and the decision was made to have every transaction on the network in dollar, in US dollar. And the reason we did that is, again, because we said the adoption by enterprises will only happen if they know the cost of the transaction fee they're going to pay every time they use the network. Right? Back then, if you remember, the transaction fee on Ethereum or other networks was changing all the time. And sometimes you were paying $10 for a 20-cent transaction on Ethereum. No one is going to build a business on this, right? So that was another decision made very early on to make sure that enterprise were adopting the network, right? So that was the start, right? The technology start and the governing start. And then what we said is, we have regulatory pressure and we need to decentralize ourselves. A lot of fun doing that, right? It's really hard to do it. But we did create the foundation first, the HBAR Foundation, to give grants to all the ecosystem to make sure that the ecosystem was activated, right? Ecosystem is exchanges, wallets, everything that needs to be involved into using the HBAR. The HBAR is our cryptocurrency. And then we started a company that we used to call Swirls Labs, which was a mouthful. And that company was, everybody moved into that company, and that company was operating the network, running the network, doing marketing, doing everything really, except managing the council, right? So we split the organization into three, and then we just rebranded all of that to make it a little bit easier. So now we have the Hedera Council, which is a council, the Hedera Foundation, which is a foundation giving grants, and Hashgraph, which is my company, who is doing the technology, the marketing, the communication. So all of that is much more consistent now.
Great.
Long
that
answer,
is
sorry.
so helpful. No, that's great. That's great. That's so helpful to have that background on what is the role of each one of these entities. Moving from there, when you say there's no way that the governance would have worked the way in a more siloed way, tell us what is the importance of decentralized governance for humanity as a whole to help society and to help the world?
Wow, we need another hour for this. Well, I think if you look at the promise of those decentralized technologies, not just us, right, but every decentralized technology, the idea is to say we have to give the power back to the individuals. Well, whether it's to own your own data, you own your own cryptocurrency, of course, own your own activity. And we are talking about owning your own AI agent, right? Whether it's the input or output of that agent. All of that is being captured by centralized organization over the last decades. And the idea of blockchain and decentralized networks is to say, no, the human, the individual needs to continue to be in control of those activities. It's not easy because the individual is lazy by design. Right? So it's really hard to say, I'm going to have now to manage my own healthcare data because I have to trust myself with managing that data. Today, I don't. I have, if I need something, I'm telling my doctor, or you just call the hospital where I went and you're going to get the data. I don't have to manage that. And the point we are making here is to say, no, you have to retake control of that data. And you can decide to still trust someone else to do this, but you have to be the one in control, the one deciding that. And today, that's a part of the challenge. But it's a huge opportunity because it's actually going back in time, saying we are going back to an environment where you don't need 20 intermediaries to operate in your life, whether it's data, whether it's payments, whether it's banking. Today, we use so many intermediaries capturing value along the way that we are losing control. And that's, as a big picture, that's why it's exciting to be in the decentralized world.
Yeah. Now, moving on to the role of tokenization. Why is tokenization important for enterprises today? And what opportunities do you see as the biggest, the most exciting, especially for 2025?
Yeah, tokenization is interesting. We just saw 2 days ago the president of the United States tokenizing himself, right? That's what just happened. I don't know if you connected the dots, but the president tokenized himself. So yeah, that's an interesting, idea, right? And so nothing to do with enterprise use cases. But I think tokenization is part of that same journey, is the idea of saying we need to make sure that people have access to what they used to have access to, right? Access to buying a building next to them, engaging with their community. The difference now is the community of an individual is the planet. So in order to engage with that planet, you need new technologies to do that. And if I want to invest $200 in India, real estate, then I need to be able to tokenize that real estate, and I can buy tokens and have access to that asset class that I don't have access to today. Or I do have access, but I pay a huge amount of fees to get access to that asset class. So that's one of the foundation, and then you translate that into the enterprise market, and the enterprise market is saying, I need to tokenize my cash. I need to which is stablecoin in a way, right? Or central bank saying I need to tokenize my monetary value, and that's CBDCs. I need to tokenize my assets because I'm the Indian real estate developer. I want to actually give access to anyone in the world to invest in my project. The best way to do that today is tokenizing my real estate project. So tokenization is going to be cutting across, right? And you've seen that in diamond, you've seen that in gold, you've seen that in a lot of places. So I guess your question was, why is it important?
Yeah, why is it important? And what opportunities are you most excited about? And you seem to have a very philosophical sense in terms of when you talk about governance, the reasons why we're doing like the greater purpose. So I'm going to ask you a deeper question. Why will tokenization also benefit humanity?
Well, because I think that's what we talked about a little bit earlier is as an individual, I will be able to engage with asset classes, with other individuals across the planet and trust the process that I'm using. And this notion of trust is actually even more important today. Now we have AI in the mix, because how do I trust that the real estate in India is actually a real piece of real estate that someone is offering me on the market, right? Before it was easier, I can see it. The building is here. If I do that across the planet, it's a very different story. So for humanity is recapturing value, recapturing power of your data and your currency or your value, really. I think that to me, that's the exciting part.
Yeah. So how do you see traditional enterprises that were designed decades ago or even centuries ago that would never have envisioned tokenization as part of their business models? How are they starting to embrace tokenization in the most profitable ways or in the most strategic ways?
Yeah, you have three camps, right? So you have the camp of organizations saying, I don't understand any of this. I'm going to wait for everybody else to do it. And then maybe I'll catch up and do something with it. Not a bad strategy, depending on where you are as a business. Then you have the organization who are saying, well, hold on, we've been doing tokenization for a while. We just don't do it at scale, and we don't do it at a unit price that is very small, and we don't do it with blockchain, right? So they say, interesting. So my business model doesn't have to change that much to adopt tokenization, but the benefits are going to be tremendous because now, again, I'm this real estate developer in India. I'm offering that project to the market. Before, the only way to invest is minimum $100,000, and you have to be an Indian citizen. All right. Tomorrow, with technology, the same person, the same company is going to say, now I can offer to everybody, and the minimum entry point is $100. That's a completely different, market that you open suddenly, right? As a developer. So the business is not that different. It's just enabled in a very different way by technology. That's the second group. So kind of excited about the opportunity. And the third group is actually building, right? So you have enterprise today building real tokenization. So we have tokenization of securities, tokenization of bonds. I mean, you've seen that all over the news for the last 2 years now. And so that those companies are actually building. I would argue that many of them don't push the limits of where we should go with tokenization. They just try to replicate an existing environment and extract value from that. Very few of them are looking at the opportunities to generate new revenue or even displace themselves, right? Because it's hard and it's scary to do that. But that's coming. I think you're going to see people displacing their own business in order to capture a larger piece of the market.
What about the challenges? What obstacles have yet to be overcome in order for tokenization to be applied at scale, especially in ways that will help humanity, the way that you said?
And we have 5 minutes left. I think the challenges are interesting. So I'm going to bounce back on the tokenization of the president. That is a challenge, honestly, for our industry, because now everybody is going to think, when we talk about blockchain and crypto, everybody is going to think about those meme coins, and they are not really going to go into a serious discussion about building tokenization for putting assets on chain. So that's one of the challenges. The challenge is we live still in a crypto world where you have a lot of cultural bias, and I'm using this one as an example, but meme coins have been around for a long time. And you have a culture of crypto that is not consistent with the enterprise culture, right? And it's a little bit why people say, we at Hedera, we are the adults in the room, because we are not touching all those fancy 2-week kind of hype and benefiting from it. Maybe we should financially, but we decided not to do this, right? We decided to focus on the enterprise market and change the world.
A longer-term mindset.
Completely.
It's more sustainable.
Well, and I'm glad you say that, because we are also the most sustainable blockchain. We are carbon negative, not just carbon neutral. We are carbon negative. The way we achieve that is, one, we have a very low consumption when we operate the network. By design, the design was such that the consumption of the network is extremely low. And we also offset our carbon footprint by buying carbon credits every year to make sure that we are carbon negative.
You are an example of a transition to a regenerative economy.
Exactly. Yeah. So back to the challenges. Of course, you have the regulatory challenge. That's going to change dramatically with the new administration. We expect clarity, which is what we need. Every business needs clarity in regulations. So that's going to help. That's going to accelerate the adoption. So I'm very optimistic on this one. And then the last challenge is the incumbents, because many organizations are going to have to change and even disappear. And I use an example very often. You're going to play with me. How many of you are willing to, if you use a credit card and you pay with your credit card all the time, you get points. How many of you are willing to give up on those points tomorrow? Very few, very few. Yeah, but no, give up, just give up. And that's the challenge we have. So the challenge we have is we are, because I'm like you, the incumbents, because we don't want to change. We don't want that to change. But if you live in a crypto world where people do peer-to-peer, who is going to give you a reward? There is no third party to give you a reward anymore. So you're going to lose those rewards. Are you okay with that? Maybe not, but I'm using that example because usually we think of the incumbent as Visa, MasterCard, and American Express, and so on. What I'm telling people is you are the incumbent too. You need to really rethink the way we operate as human in order to capture the value here.
That is so interesting in terms of seeing ourselves as the incumbents and as part of the traditional system. I want to go back to your point on addressing the challenges of regulation that you were very optimistic on. How can the world that is being tokenized, how can existing regulatory frameworks be better adapted for it, and what new rules do we need?
Yeah, and
in our minute left.
We don't need a lot of changes. What we need is clarity. So people will invest because now they know what to expect when they invest somewhere. Right? That's a very generic statement, but that's very true in tokenization. People don't do it today because they say, I don't know if it's going to be a security, if it's going to be a commodity, if it's going to be a form of payment, if it's going to be property. I have no idea, so I don't do it. Right? If tomorrow you know, maybe you will, but at least you're going to engage. And that to me, that's the opportunity that we have, because the US is going to come up with better regulations and clarity, and that's going to spread across the world. Everything else is not that big of a difference.
There seems like there's a sense of optimism. So very quickly, do you see the role of common standards being part of this?
You have to define common standards. I thought we had only 1 minute. We need another hour for this one too. Sandra, we need another workshop next year.
Wow, I love it. We're just adding to the agenda next year.
Common standard is a big topic because it depends where you apply that, right? Do you apply that at the use case level? So common standard for supply chain, or common standard for, API calls to call Web3 platforms between wallets and exchange. I mean, this is a very, very broad question. I'm trying to find a specific example. A topic I really enjoy considering with other blockchains, which we do a lot of that, is standards on increasing the adoption of the technology by all of us. And we last year, actually at Davos last year, we launched the Decentralized Recovery Alliance, which is an alliance of Algorand and, of course, us and Ripple and Cardano and a few others. And we said, we as Hashgraph, Lehman Baird, the inventor of Hashgraph, we invented a new protocol so that when you lose your private key, your friends are going to recover your key for you and send back to you. But they cannot do that if you're not alive anymore, right? So they can only do that if you ask them to do it. So there is a very complex mechanism, but very easy to use, and that's an example of standards. But that if we all adopt that standard, then suddenly the adoption is going to be much higher.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We are
welcome.
so happy to have you here and appreciate your time. There seems like there's a high level of excitement for 2025. So let's continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.